Right now, something is drifting through the air toward your skin, and it wants in. It has been trying for 300 million years. It got into the frogs, it got into the bats, it is erasing whole species off the map. But it reaches you and just slides off. Not your immune system. Something older and dumber than that, running in your body at this exact second, a number you were taught to ignore. That number is 36.5. You were taught it means nothing is wrong, the most forgettable reading on the thermometer. Look closer. There are roughly 5 million species of fungi on Earth, and fewer than 1 in 10,000 can infect a human. Most never even reach your immune system. They drift onto warm skin and stop because they cannot grow in the heat you radiate right now. This is not a resting number. It is a wall, and you have stood behind it your whole life without noticing. That wall is not passive. Every degree of it deletes a slice of the fungal kingdom. Put the fungal kingdom against a thermometer and a brutal pattern appears. For every degree above 30, about 6% more species drop out. They can no longer grow. Your 36.5 sits several rungs up that ladder, and each rung has already erased thousands of fungi that would otherwise live inside you. This is not neutral warmth. It is subtraction. The obvious move would be to climb higher, but your body stops almost exactly here, at a number that turns out to be suspiciously precise. Here is why it stops. Researchers modeled two curves with nothing to do with each other. The first is how many fungi you lock out as you heat up. The second is how much extra food you must burn to stay that hot. Heat rewards you on one curve and punishes you on the other. They cross. The best possible trade between killing fungi and starving at 36.7 degrees. Your temperature is not a leftover baseline. It reads like a setting someone dialed in. The wall has an exact height. Now watch every animal that could not build theirs as high. Now point the same thermometer at the cold-blooded world, and the wall vanishes. Tens of thousands of fungal species can infect reptiles, amphibians, and fish. The number that can seriously harm a mammal? A few hundred. Same planet, same fungi. One difference, warm blood. When researchers ran nearly 5,000 fungal strains against mammalian body heat, almost every one of them lost. For the animals without that heat, losing is not an abstraction. It looks like being eaten alive. Take the fungus-erasing frogs from the planet, chytrid. It grows best between 17 and 25 degrees and shuts down completely near 28. It has driven entire amphibian species to extinction, and it physically cannot begin on you. The same organism behind the frog apocalypse cannot take one step onto a 36.5 degree body. The frogs simply never had the wall. You can see the difference in the streams. It is not subtle. In cool highland streams, infected frogs are peeling off their own skin in sheets, the fungus visibly coating them, dying in numbers that empty whole valleys. 1 or 2 extra degrees of body heat would have blocked it outright. They did not have them. Entire branches of the animal kingdom are being deleted by something your temperature simply laughs off. And when a warm animal lets its own wall drop, even for a season, the same thing comes for it. Watch a hibernating bat. To survive winter, it lets its thermostat fall, cooling straight into the range one fungus adores. And the fungus pours in, a white fuzz creeping across its muzzle and wings while it sleeps. It is called white nose syndrome, and in some colonies it kills 90 to 100% of them. This is the wall opening in real time, a warm mammal that lowered its own temperature and let the kingdom back inside. The cold-blooded never get to close the wall at all. Some of them wear the infection on their faces. Wild snakes across North America and Europe are turning up with crusted, swollen lesions eating into their faces. Snake fungal disease, now in over 30 species. It is exactly the kind of infection a warm body almost never gets. A snake has no furnace. It cannot run a fever, so it wears the fungus on its skin, openly, until the fungus wins. The rare fungi that break into us are not stronger or more toxic. They learned one trick first. For a fungus, the first thing it must evolve to hurt you is not a toxin or a weapon. It is heat tolerance. Simply growing at 37 degrees counts by itself as a virulence factor. For some deadly fungi, it is one of only 3 requirements to be dangerous at all. A fungus that cannot stand your temperature is, almost by definition, harmless. The lock on the door is not poison-proof. It is heat, so the monsters that frighten doctors are just the ones that pick that lock. Aspergillus is one of the top mold pathogens of humans, and it grows at temperatures approaching the absolute ceiling for complex life, hotter than almost anything with a nucleus can survive. That heat tolerance is precisely what lets it infect us. The rare fungi that hurt people are exactly the ones that smash through the heat wall. The exception does not disprove the barrier. It proves the barrier is real, and we can name the exact moment a brand new one climbed over because it happened in your lifetime. In 2009, doctors in Japan swabbed a patient's ear and grew a yeast nobody had cataloged, Candida auris. What made it strange looked boring on paper. It was happy at 40 degrees. It had done what almost no fungus manages. It climbed over the human heat wall. Within a decade, it was in hospitals on every inhabited continent. You could film the first fungus that learned to live at our temperature. So far, your wall has been something your body holds by default. Some animals have to build theirs by hand. A desert iguana cannot run a fever from the inside. It has no furnace. So when it gets infected, it walks. It climbs onto a sun-baked rock and deliberately cooks itself about 2 degrees hotter, and that self-made fever measurably keeps it alive. It has to physically travel to a heat source to do what your body does silently, automatically, without you ever choosing to. And it is not only lizards. The instinct to burn an infection out runs almost comically deep. Even a desert locust, infected with a killer fungus, does the very same thing. It climbs into the sun and bakes itself, raising its temperature in careful doses, enough to cook the fungus, not enough to cook the insect. An insect. The entire animal kingdom keeps independently rediscovering one defense: get hotter, and the fungus dies. It may be the most reinvented survival trick in all of nature. You reinvented it too. You just never have to leave the couch to do it. Your fever is that exact lizard-on-a-rock move, run on the inside. When you are infected, your body shoves its core a couple of degrees above 36.5, and that push measurably improves your odds. The reptile walks to the warm rock. You build the warm rock inside your own chest, on demand, in minutes. Fever is not your body breaking down. It is your body cranking the fungal wall even higher. This wall is old. Old enough that it may have decided who inherited the planet. 66 million years ago, an asteroid killed the dinosaurs, and in the rock layers of Colorado, right at the impact boundary, you can point a camera at what came next. Fungal microfossils spike sharply against plant ones, a global fungal bloom, frozen in stone, feeding on a dead world. The corpse of the planet grew a coat of fungus, and this is not the only time the rocks record it. The animals that walked out of that bloom were not the strongest. They were the ones with a wall. Picture the survivors of that asteroid winter. The reptiles that scraped through were still cold-blooded. They could not run an internal fever, could not raise a wall against the fungus blooming over everything, but small, warm, fungus-resistant mammals could. The hypothesis is unsettling. Our ancestors may have inherited the Earth not because they were smarter, but because they could not be infected. You might exist because your family already had the wall. Which makes the number stranger still, because the number you lean on is not fixed. It has a history, and the history is short. That famous normal temperature, 98.6 Fahrenheit, was never handed down by nature. A German physician named Karl Wunderlich said it in 1868, taking armpit readings from thousands of patients with a thermometer nearly a foot long. Everyone since has memorized his average as if it were a constant of the universe. It was one man's spreadsheet from the 1800s, and it turns out the number was never standing still. Measure it today, and the wall is lower than it was the day he wrote it down. Here is what nobody printed on the thermometer. Since Wunderlich's day, the average human body has been cooling from 98.6 toward about 97.9, a fraction of a degree every decade. The wall that locks out a kingdom of 5 million species, the wall that may have handed your ancestors the planet, is quietly being lowered, not by an enemy, by us. And everything on the far side of it, the frog's killer, the bat's killer, the yeast that learned to climb, is still out there. Still drifting toward warm skin, still testing the height. You are never just a resting number. You are a wall. And the wall is coming down, one fraction of a degree at a time.